Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo, and we're here today talking a little bit about the gameplay changes that were made inside of the Frontier Defense DLC. So we're going to talk about the modifications that were made to aim assist, we're going to talk about the G2, we're going to talk about the changes that were made to melee, thank frickin' goodness. We're going to talk a little bit about Scorch. I still want to spend more time with Scorch in an actual player versus player setting. I've only spent about an hour or two, and I'm still not sure how I feel about the buffs, but we're going to talk a little bit early on about my feelings on the Scorch change. Let's start though by talking about aim assist. This is a long time coming, and I'm so happy Respawn has finally done something with the aim assist, especially for rifles. And as a whole, aim assist got modified across the board, not just for rifles, but rifles did get an additional modification, especially in their ADS form. This is just so much yes. I've never been one to say get rid of aim assist. You can't actually do that. I see those comments all the time. People are just delete aim assist. First-person shooters back in the day did it. No, they didn't actually. In fact, the very first-person shooter to truly establish the idea of first-person shooters working on a controller on a console was Halo on the original Xbox. And Halo on the original Xbox did in fact have one of the first iterations of a really concrete aim assist system. Bungie did an amazing job with it, and they sort of set the precedent for how first-person shooters could and would work on a controller, on the Xbox, and eventually on the PlayStation, so on and so forth. Aim assist is a must for making controller gameplay feel good for the player. That doesn't mean that it has to be a magnetic system that acts as a crutch and rewards people in giving them kills that they didn't actually earn or deserve. And that was the current state of Titanfall 2's aim assist before the patch. I'm happy to say, after a lot of experimenting in in-game matches, not just in private matches, where I found it to be very difficult to recognize where the change was going on, it is obvious that some substantial changes have been made to the way aim assist works, especially when ADSing with rifles like the R2 and the R1. Now, Respawn actually very clearly explained to us how they modified the ADS aim assist on rifles. The idea is that you have to be aiming much closer to center mass on your target for you to actually receive that boost. Previously, I'm imagining that the dot that was at the center of your target was much bigger, so big in fact that it probably encompassed the actual outlines or the edges of the character model. So you'd get a lot of these situations where someone's running past your screen, you'd get the aim assist lock on as soon as they entered your sights, so you'd maybe touch their arm or their leg or their, their rib cage, and then as they were going up past you, you're getting that boost, and as the reticle finally comes off your target, you're still getting that boost. And that was a more than enough time to land all of the necessary shots with the R2 to get the kill, regardless of how fast your target was moving. So the game was doing a lot of the tracking for you, just because of where that boost began and where it ended. Now, imagine that circle being much smaller on the center of your target, like you have to actually aim for their spine within their character's skeleton. It locks on just when you grab center, and the moment it moves off of center, it seems to let go. So as someone who plays on 3 sensitivity, typically doesn't ADS with any of the weapons, when I was ADSing, I was actually having trouble tracking targets. Even with the aim assist, it was dropping off so soon. It actually felt like I was playing a different first-person shooter. It felt good, and I was like, this is the type of aim assist boost we should have had all along. It didn't need to be so magnetic, so grabby. You don't want that crutch or that handicap. A lot of people may be relying on that. They're going to be a little bit frustrated when they jump into the game and they realize they have to manually track a little bit more. But I think just about everybody who's still playing the game has the ability to track with the rifles, whether they're hipfiring or ADSing, without that massive magnetic aim assist boost. It's just going to feel better. It's going to feel more rewarding. And I think it's going to make the gameplay feel better for everyone on both spectrums, whether you're playing more stationary or playing more mobile. It was a change that absolutely needed to happen. And I'm happy to see them also messing with the aim assist across the board. I definitely noticed it a little bit less when I was hip firing with SMGs like the alternator and the car. Those were always guns that I could feel it with when I was hip firing. If I slid past someone and was unloading on them with the alternator, I would feel that grab. And again, it seems like it just grabs a little bit less, and I have to be more accurate before I actually get that boost. So I think they did a great job with it. I mean, we could sit here and nitpick and, it could be a little bit. I think it feels good. I really do think it feels much better than it did before. And I think all in all, this is great for the health of the game for the rest of its existence. Now, SMGs saw some modifications in terms of long-range damage, but it seems like all of those values were done at the maximum damage distance. So nothing really noticeable here. I mean, if somebody's playing really stationary, you're still going to be able to poke them like halfway across the map with alternator tap fire. If they're mobile, that's obviously a different story. But all in all, nothing really feels substantially different with the SMGs in their overall damage output. It just feels fine. It feels okay to me. If anything was changed, it's not noticeable in typical engagements during a public match of Titanfall 2, so I'm okay with that. Let's talk melee. Now, I'm the person who was like, delete melee, put it in the trash can, burn the computer, burn the building that the computer's down in, and then nuke the whole crash site, or just get rid of the whole place. Did I say nuke crash site? I didn't mean that, but that's not a bad idea either. Just get rid of it, right? I don't like one-hit melees. I know that the lunge system and the idea of a one-hit melee is very dramatic and cinematic, and people like it, right? Respawn's not going to get rid of it. A lot of you guys enjoy it. So I'm happy to see them finally diving in and just modifying the way it works. You're still going to have plenty of situations where you're in the middle of a gunfight and somebody melees you. There's no more of that, like, getting lunged around a corner. At least I haven't had it happen to me yet. People have to be much closer. I've noticed situations where I've tried to test the melee. I have to be much closer. It's definitely, again, a healthy change for the game going forward. Now, one of my favorite things about the modification of the melee system is, like, if you're going to keep one-hit melee around, it needs to work and be consistent. And when you were doing standard left and right jabs in close quarters without the lunge, it was super broken sometimes. Like, I'd walk up behind a guy and just whiff, and then he'd turn around and kick me in the face halfway across the map after he stimmed 6 feet away from me. You know, it was really frustrating to have that whiff happen the one time you actively want to melee someone at a close quarters environment where it should be working. It wasn't working all the time. So it feels more consistent. I've had some of those close range jabs like connect when I just feel like they could have whiffed. We'll have to see long term what the consistency's like, but I'm glad to see them addressing that at all. G2, ladies and gentlemen, the G2. Honestly, you want to know my completely transparent thoughts on the G2? Nothing has changed. Reducing the fire rate on the weapon, in my opinion, actually made it more stable, which is interestingly because they intentionally reduced the fire rate on the DMR for the same reason. They wanted the gun to feel more stable and less spammy. They've effectively done that with the G2. It still shoots plenty fast enough. You can still clean up people very effectively. If there's any sort of downside or any actual nerf to this nerf, it's that you can't spam it as much in very close quarters environments, which means you might lose a few less gunfights where you should be losing less gunfights. So you could say that they've made the G2 a slightly more healthy weapon, but considering that most people camp out with an AWOL somewhere in the corner of the map with it and ruin entire matches of attrition on Colony and Angel City, it hasn't really been modified in the environment where it's most utilized anyways. Long term, we'll see what happens. Fortunately, the G2 is still that weapon that's sort of the occasional plague, right? It's not like every single match you play during the course of a session, every single day, is filled with G2 users, and just tons of them. You get matches like that, and they can be frustrating. And when they are frustrating, they make you want to walk away from the game for a very long time. I don't know that this is enough to stop that from happening. The gun is still incredibly effective, but maybe just having people read the patch notes and have the sort of buzzword ideology of, that weapon was nerfed, will make people use it less. That happened with the Devotion, and then people still kept calling for nerfs, and now the thing is practically dead. So who knows what will happen with the G2 long term. But I guess we can say it's a step in the right direction. I don't know. Let's move on and talk a little bit about Scorch. Scorch is Scorch, man. It's so hard to talk about Scorch in a public play setting because you can't really tell if the Titan feels any better with his buffs on its kits when you're going up against people who just feed you with Ronins all day long anyways. I would really like to go up against someone who like knows what they're doing with Ronin in like a 1v1 testing environment to see just how much damage we got out of the thermite launcher. No doubt that Dino's going to be going in and breaking down the numbers anyways. It does seem, when I'm running Wildfire Launcher, that I'm getting way more damage with direct hits, even if they don't stick. That's a positive, because the sad thing is that we still have that RNG system in place for just when Scorch's thermite sticks. I've heard like a billion rumors ever since Scorch, it's like 3 months since we've all been like crying for a Scorch buff, right? Oh, shoot the person in the hip, it'll stick. No, none of that works. It still is super, super random. You shoot somebody directly in the face. If you're lucky, it'll stick. If you're unlucky, it won't. There's a Ronin rushing you. He's got 1 bar of HP. If you stick him with this thermite, he'll probably go into Doom State and you can execute him. Oh, it didn't stick because RNG. It's a part of Scorch's design that seems to be inherent and will probably never go away. That drives me absolutely crazy. That's one of the things I would have liked to see changed above all else. It especially sucks when you're in like a 1v1 gunfight with a Monarch. Monarch is still that plague where you've got a Titan that has like 40 rounds in the magazine and you have to stop and do this slow like 3-4 second reload just to get another thermite shell off that doesn't even stick to the target. You know, your DPS in those situations is super poor and you're relying entirely on saturating the environment with thermite and hoping that your enemy actually stands in it. Now, I get that's kind of the point of Scorch, but I still think the primary needs more love outside of kit upgrades. Now, when it comes to tempered plating, I haven't even messed with it outside of Frontier Defense. To me, it's a pure defensive ability, and I don't want to run around with Scorch as a purely defensive Titan. The idea of getting that boost and having no crit spot, yeah, it can make you survive longer, but if I'm not outputting any more damage with my thermite launcher because I can't run wildfire launcher, then I'm just staying on the battlefield longer, spending more time getting poked before the enemy finally kills me anyways. You know, there's too much relying on the enemy closing in and getting close to you, which again, a good player isn't going to do. They're not going to stand in Scorch's Inferno Shield for you. They're not going to stand in a hallway and get absolutely torched. So you're still relying on that KS element of coming in, getting lucky, and, you know, catching the enemy off guard. Now, I know a lot of you are going to tell me, that's how Scorch should be played. The thing is, no other Titan has to play that way. So Scorch is still the odd man out. He's the one who has to play the game different than everyone else. He's the one who struggles in 1v1s more than everyone else. He still doesn't feel like a good pick unless you just really want to play Scorch. Any other Titan in the game can do more damage, will have higher DPS in more environments than Scorch. And that's what still continues to make me sad. Now, maybe long-term, more time with the Titan, you know, get a little bit more time in with everything, it'll feel better. As again, this is a really early impressions. Things just didn't feel different enough for me. I will say that Firewall does seem like it does more damage because it's wider now. I don't know if that just means because more of the enemy is standing in it, but I definitely had some situations where I got Firewall kills that I wasn't really expecting to get when the enemy was sitting in a pretty good situation for Doomstate health or traditional health, and I drop a Firewall and actually get the finishing kill with the Firewall. So, you know, it's nice to at least have that be seemingly a little bit more powerful when it comes to combo damage. So if somebody does stand in your thermite, you can really punish them excessively. I think, here's the thing about Scorch, right? Most people are going to disagree with me. Everybody's going to say Scorch is a god now. He's best Titan ever now. Because that's just how he plays in a public setting, right? Public setting, Scorch always felt relatively good. People always like, I don't know why people think Scorch needs a buff. I've got like 50. Dude, you're going up against people who don't know what the hell they're doing. They're standing in your thermite, right? Like, so that's where the average player plays Scorch. And that's the average type of engagement that a Scorch pilot will have. So Scorch is going to feel kick-ass. And you know what? Maybe that's all this Titan will ever get, and maybe that's all this Titan ever needs. Does he work in public play? He's really good in Frontier Defense. There's no doubt about that. You know, one Scorch just on his own in Frontier Defense is a huge boost to your team when it comes to crowd control and saturating, you know, large areas with fire damage, especially considering you're going up against the AI. So, you know what? Maybe Scorch is in the best place he'll ever be. I'm not unhappy with the changes that have been made, and I think it's definitely nice to have what we have now. I can run my wildfire launcher, and I can get that extra damage off. I guess I just was hoping for a little bit more for this guy, but we'll leave it at that. Apart from all that, guys, I mean, this feels like one of the best patches that Titanfall 2 has gotten in a long time. Some really good changes here for the health of the game. Things like the phase shift modification, I think, was great. Just all in all, it feels like a better game. Some people might say it's a little too late, but a lot of us are still playing. Frontier Defense has brought a lot of players back into the game. It's going to be launching on August 1st into Origin Access on PC, so hopefully that'll boost the PC player base. I mean, it's a pretty good time to be a Titanfall 2 player. A lot more players coming into the game. We've got a great chunk of PvE content now. One of the best patches we've had in a long time. Now, if we could just get another new, beautiful, wonderful map like Glitch, we'd be fine and dandy and ready to rock and roll for the rest of the year. We'll have to see what the future is going to bring us. I have no idea what Respawn's plans are for more content. But feel free to let me know what you guys think of all the core gameplay changes that were made with this recent patch. What have your experiences been with them? How do you feel about Scorch, the G2, the aim assist, and the melee? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, remember to play smart, remember to play to challenge yourself, but most importantly, remember to play for fun.